I'm Veronica Dudo. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, possible breakthrough. U.S. and Ukrainian leaders are optimistic about a new peace deal, but sticking points remain. Wild weather, winter storms jam up traffic for travelers. How long it will stick around. Flu outbreak, which state is seeing record numbers, and how you can stay safe. Plus, coming to a close. We'll take you to Rome to see the unique way the Jubilee year is ending. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Thomas Becket. Our top story tonight. President Donald Trump hosts the Prime Minister of Israel to discuss peace in the Middle East. The two met at Mar-a-Lago in Florida just one day after Trump met with the president of Ukraine. President Trump wants to see lasting peace in both war-torn regions. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu travels to Florida to meet with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and later President Donald Trump.
They appreciate what you've done to help Israel and to help our common battle against the terrorists and those who would destroy our civilization.
Israel and Hamas already agreed to a ceasefire in Gaza. Now the Trump administration wants to move to the second phase of the peace process.
If you don't see Hamas disarm in that short amount of time that you're giving them, can you tell us what the next steps would be?
It'll be horrible for them. Horrible.
The White House also pushes for peace in Ukraine. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announced today President Trump has concluded a positive call with President Putin concerning Ukraine. President Trump also called the head of Russia yesterday before hosting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at Mar-a-Lago.
We could be very close. There are one or two very thorny issues, very tough issues, but I think we're doing very well. We made a lot of progress today, but really we've made it over the last month.
The United States offered Ukraine a 15-year security guarantee, but Zelensky said today he would prefer an alliance lasting up to 50 years.
And we agree that security guarantees is a key milestone in achieving lasting peace.
It's still unclear how Ukraine and Russia will settle disagreements over territory.
We have to respect our law and our people, and we respect the territory which we control.
We're getting closer to an agreement on that, and that's a big issue, certainly. That's one of the big issues.
Joining us now is Jim Townsend, Senior Fellow at the Center for New American Security. Thanks so much for coming on.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
President Zelensky says the United States is offering Ukraine 15 years of security guarantees. What would that look like, and what kind of guarantees are they talking about?
Well, it's a great question, and I think there's a lot of detail yet to be worked out. A security guarantee will not just be with the U.S., but it'll be also with the so-called coalition of the willing, countries in Europe who are also going to be part of trying to deter anything from from Russia in the future if they can come up with an agreement. And for the U.S. role, it doesn't look like it'll be boots on the ground. It'll be something along the lines of intelligence, early warning, things that will help a European force and the Ukrainians should they need it in the future. But a lot of this hinges on the Ukraine military and the idea of having at least an 800,000 person military that comes out of any kind of peace agreement.
A major issue delaying a peace deal includes territorial disputes. Is there a solution that would satisfy both sides?
Not now. I don't think. There's a lot of creative thinking going on. The latest being having that Donbas area be an economic zone that would be focused on, I guess, recovery and this type of thing, but that would not be that would not have any troops on it. In other words, not Ukraine troops, not Russian troops. They would pull back, and this would be some type of neutral business zone. That's what the Ukrainians are shooting for. But what the Russians want is to control those two oblasts, Luhansk and Donetsk. And so, in order to do that, they want their troops there. They don't want Ukraine troops there. They don't want an economic zone. And so that's the idea that will be pitched to the Russians once these talks have finalized in Florida.
President Trump had phone calls with the Russian president both yesterday and this morning. During today's call, Putin told him of an alleged attack on his residence. Ukraine has denied any involvement. What more is known about these allegations?
Well, they're being disputed a bit. This is really being seen by a lot of experts as being what's called a red flag incident, where the Russians have set up something that looked like Ukraine attacking a residence, which really would be an escalation in the targeting, and something that is not something something to worry about if it was something along those lines. But the experts are saying, no, that's not going to be the case here. It looks like they're setting up a reason for Russia to say no to the any peace proposal that might come his way, or that he might be using this as an excuse to increase some of the violence in terms of his attacking Ukraine cities. So this looks like it's more of a strategy by the Russians to be able to say no to the latest peace agreement than something that actually happened. But it's still sketchy right now, and we'll have to learn more about it.
Jim Townsend, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
China conducted its largest military exercises around the island of Taiwan today. The People's Liberation Army described the operation as a stern warning to opponents of Beijing's claim to the land. Air, land, naval, and missile forces all took part. The military escalation comes after China expressed anger that the Trump administration revealed a proposed weapons package to the territory. Taiwan's defense ministry said that rapid response exercises were underway with forces on high alert. New York is facing its most severe week of flu activity on record since tracking began in 2004. State health officials have reported over 71,000 cases in just 7 days. Hospitalizations jumped 63% in a single week. Experts point to a new H3N2 variant as a primary driver of this spike. As the season can peak often in January, health leaders are urging caution, but the surge isn't just in New York. The CDC has labeled very high activity in Colorado and Louisiana. Dr. William Schaffner, professor of medicine and infectious diseases at Vanderbilt University, joins us to discuss. Thank you so much for your time today.
Good to be with you, Veronica.
So with officials reporting high numbers of cases in New York, which groups are at high risk for complications from this new variant?
Well, this new variant is very, very contagious, and there are outbreaks of influenza all over the country at the present time. I think we don't have to worry about influenza doing anything distinctive, but the people who are most at risk of the more serious complications are people who are older, if you're older than age 65, if you're anybody who has an underlying chronic medical condition, heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, for example, those who are pregnant, and of course, anyone who's immune compromised, whether because of their illness or a medication that they're taking. Those are the folks who are more likely to get severe disease that requires hospitalization.
How effective is this year's flu shot against the strains currently circulating?
Well, the flu vaccine, of course, as we know, is not perfect. It can't prevent every case of flu, but it is still active in being able to prevent more serious disease. It helps keep you out of the hospital. We never say it's too late to get vaccinated against flu, but if you haven't been vaccinated, please run to your pharmacy or healthcare provider to get vaccine.
If an individual starts showing symptoms, what is the window of time for taking antiviral medications?
Well, as you can imagine, Veronica, earlier is better. Optimally within the first 48 hours after becoming ill, developing symptoms. You know, moms generally take their children into their healthcare provider in order to get treatment early, but we adults, you and I, tend to put it off. Maybe we'll get better in the morning. We don't want to bother the doctor. Not good thinking. The sooner we can initiate antiviral treatment that also helps keep you out of the hospital, the more effective it will be. Stands to reason.
Do you have some tips for how people can tell the difference between this new flu strain and the current COVID-19 or other variants going around?
It's very difficult to distinguish flu from COVID, from RSV, or even common cold viruses. The common cold usually affects you from the neck up, right? Sore throat, runny nose, feeling kind of crummy. Flu and COVID tend to get down into your chest, cause a cough, make you more seriously ill. And flu usually starts with a bang. COVID gently eases you into your illness.
Dr. Schaffner, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
More than 30 million people are now under a winter weather alert. A powerful winter storm, including blizzard conditions and damaging winds, is sweeping across the central and eastern U.S. This is Newberry in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan this morning. Parts of the state have already received close to 2 feet of snow. On Sunday, the National Weather Service issued tornado warnings and watches across much of central Illinois. The agency confirmed today that an EF1 tornado touched down in Tazewell County. Flying debris caused damage to roofs, windows, and trees. For more, I'd like to bring in Weather Nation meteorologist Elena Cameron. Elena, can you explain to us what's happening with this storm right now and where it's heading?
I know, it's such a strange storm to go from tornadoes to now snowfall on the ground in the same spots. We wanted to show you what's happened and what's happening with this system because it's been a whole lot of snow, especially the closer you are to some of those Great Lakes. You get the support of some lake effect snow bands, and that's what we saw from late last night to this morning across the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and down through northern Wisconsin. Our top totals were coming out of the state of Michigan, where we had 2 feet of snow that came down in spots like Champion, Michigan, Marquette in the Upper Peninsula had 22 inches of snowfall. A lot of these reports were also because of the wind, and that's where you heard about the blizzard concern that we had across the Upper Midwest. Just look at the hundreds of winter storm reports that happened within just the last 24 hours. Now, because the winds were so strong and the snow is coming down, it reduced visibility to those blizzard conditions with upwards of 60-mile-per-hour winds across portions of the Upper Midwest. The strong winds thus led to a lot of power outages out there and still a lot of recovery efforts happening. Now moving forward, across the Northeast, that's where the storm system is heading. We've had a little bit of ice on the ground because of the same system. So the ice on the ground and now the system moving through, producing a lot of snow on radar tonight across these locations, and it's going to continue to move its way east. The problem is the Great Lakes are unfrozen across these areas, so that's going to set us up for some additional lake effect snowfall. So there's widespread winter weather alerts that are in place across portions of the northeastern United States over some of these untouched Great Lakes. So that's going to lead us to some additional lake effect snow bands. So that's what we're watching next with this system, and we'll continue to monitor some of the snowfall totals that we're expected to see across the Northeast, especially if you live in these areas that are currently under winter weather advisories, lake effect snow warnings, as well as winter storm warnings. So that's what we're tracking here. You can always find more on weathernationtv.com.
Elena Cameron, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly. Closing doors, we take a look at how the church wraps up the Jubilee year. And Catholic at the Capitol, hear the inspiring story of one representative's journey of faith. Calls on the faithful to continue to pray for peace in the world, especially for families that are suffering at the hands of violent conflicts.
È un momento di prova per Gesù, Maria e Giuseppe.
At the last Sunday address of 2025, the Pope emphasized how Christian families can be a light in society. The Holy Father also encouraged Christians to cherish the values of the gospel and protect the flame of love in their homes against modern myths of success, power, and comfort. From St. Mary Major to St. Paul outside the walls, holy doors are closing across Rome as the 2025 Jubilee Year of Hope comes to an end. EWTN Vatican journalist Benedict Sedegren has more.
As the ancient Sperduta bell, long associated with the spirit of pilgrimage, rang, the holy door of the Basilica of St. Mary Major closed on December 25th. This marked the beginning of the Vatican's gradual conclusion of the 2025 Jubilee Year of Hope. During his homily at the Mass that followed, Cardinal Rolandas Macricas, Archpriest of the Papal Basilica of St. Mary Major, stressed that the closing of the Holy Door does not signify the closing of divine grace, the merciful heart of God, or the hearts of the faithful.
Today we saw the Holy Door close, but the door that truly matters remains the door of our heart. It opens when we listen to the Word of God, it expands when we welcome our brothers and sisters, and it is strengthened when we forgive and ask for forgiveness.
The Jubilee Year, he said, is not an event to be archived at its conclusion, but an invitation to remain attentive to the Son, to renew prayer, strengthen families, and serve the needy. On the morning of Saturday, December 27th, Cardinal Baldassare Reina, Archpriest of the Basilica of St. John Lateran, presided over the closing of the second Holy Door, that of the Cathedral of the Pope. The Cardinal reminded the faithful that, even as the door is closed, Christ himself remains the true gate to mercy and salvation.
Cosa ci lascia quest'anno giubilare?
What does this Jubilee year leave us? It leaves us a widespread sacrament of the closeness of the God of surprises. And if we now close the door, we know that the Risen One passes through closed doors and never tires of knocking on our closed doors to offer and to find mercy.
E trovare misericordia.
On the Feast of the Holy Family, Cardinal James Harvey closed the third door of the Jubilee year at the Basilica of St. Paul's outside the walls.
Now, O Father, as we close the holy door of this basilica, grant that your people may leave behind the moorings of human certainties, entrusted to the grace of Christ, always grateful, and sail through the sea of history with sails filled with the hope that comes from the Spirit.
The closing of the Holy Door at the Basilica of St. Paul's outside the walls also ended the Jubilee year in the particular churches that had been designated by bishops as places where the faithful could obtain Jubilee indulgences within their dioceses, just like those who made pilgrimages to Rome. Pope Leo will conclude the ordinary Jubilee by closing the Holy Door in St. Peter's Basilica on January 6, 2026, the Solemnity of the Epiphany. In Rome, Benedict Cedergren for EWTN News Nightly.
U.S. Representative and House Majority Whip Tom Emmer is a man who is not shy about his Roman Catholic faith. His belief is a significant part of his personal life and political identity. In tonight's Faith on the Hill, Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales sat down with the Majority Whip and discovered how his family played an important role in developing his love for the Lord.
I'm the son of Tom and Patsy Emmer, who literally met in the 6th and 7th grade at Our Lady of Grace Catholic Grade School in Edina, Minnesota. Were married for 60-some years. They literally lived around the corner from each other. And they never moved more than about 2 or 3 miles from where they originally grew up.
Stability and love for the Lord, principles that helped shape Tom Emmer as a kid. His father, a devout Catholic, attended daily Mass and made sure the entire family knew the importance of relying on the Lord, being grateful and thankful. On his parents' wedding day, Tom says his mom gifted his father a rosary.
The example that they set is, I believe, why I am who I am.
Congressman Emmer says early on he learned the importance of daily Mass. As a child, he even sang in the church choir.
I was a soprano. Wow. I was very good until all of a sudden, not anymore. Not anymore. Now it's just the voice is like down here. In fact, when I try to do In the Rockets' Red Glare, I can only say it. It's like my voice doesn't go there anymore.
Emmer, one of 3 children, experienced the loss of his sister Bridget, who died of breast cancer at 38 years old. He calls it a turning point in his life. He was so angry at the Lord and had doubts about God's will because of his sister's suffering. But a conversation with Bridget after a chemotherapy treatment brought it home. Bridget told him 2 older ladies were telling her she was too young to have cancer, and that made Bridget angry.
I said, well, I kind of agree with them. My sister at that point, and understand, this isn't where she was when she was diagnosed. This is now she's gone through this process. She looked at me and she said, Tom, would I love to live forever? Absolutely, but I'm not going to. And people who talk like that have not gotten every second out of every minute, out of every hour of every day. I have lived a good life. If God comes and calls me today, so be it.
Emmer says it took her words to get him out of his own anger with the Lord. His message to others, always put God first and live for the moment.
I think too many people in this age of social media and all the other stuff, the world gets going so fast that they don't take a minute to sit down, check out what the good Lord has created.
As you can see, Tom Emmer is a man not shy to share his Catholic faith, and as a politician, his voting record often aligns with the political advocacy positions of Catholic organizations, particularly on issues concerning abortion, same-sex marriage, and religious freedom. He tells me he will always fight for all Americans to live and work without compromising their deeply held principles. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Boxes of Joy, how one Disney actor is making a difference one Christmas gift at a time. While he's known as the star of the beloved series Wizards of Waverly Place and the new Wizards Beyond Waverly Place, today David Henrie is sharing a different kind of magic. This one is rooted in faith, family, and generosity. I had the opportunity to speak with David about how his family is serving some of the world's poorest children through his partnership with Cross Catholic Outreach and its Box of Joy ministry. Thank you so much. Now, you have described your recent mission trips with Cross Catholic Outreach as a perspective check for both you and your wife, Maria. Can you share with our audience about your experiences in Guatemala and the Dominican Republic?
When it comes to charity, it's really important that my kids understand that there are other people in need and that we have a responsibility to help our fellow man, which helps teach them about the body of Christ, right? That we're all one in Christ. And if one organ is off, the others are off as well. So we need to help those less fortunate. So for me, the best way to do that is tell my kids, hey, we're going to go grab this thing called a Box of Joy, which is where we bring toys to kids who don't have them somewhere around the world, and we give them a rosary in the life of Jesus. And when I told them we were going to go shopping for them to pick out their favorite toys for another kid their age who didn't have any, their minds exploded and they had a million questions. What do you mean there's kids with no toys? And by the way, I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 3-year-old, just to give some perspective. What do you mean there's kids with no toys? Can't they buy them? Oh, they have no money? Wait, what does that mean, huh? Where are they? Show me. We need the help. And to this day now, since I did that event with my kids, they pray for the kids who don't have toys and the kids who are poor all over the world. They now understand a little bit what it means to have poverty. And it was a fun time as well, because I took them to the toy store and they got to pick out literally their favorite toys that could fit in a shoebox to send to some kid in a third country, particularly Guatemala or the Dominican Republic. And it was big for me because they had the best time, and now they have these memories. And it's been a great way to teach them without having to teach them, if you understand what I mean.
For many of these children, a Box of Joy is the first Christmas gift they have ever received, as you explained to your children. So beyond the physical items like toys and school supplies, what do these boxes represent to the communities in terms of hope and their connection to the global church?
I was in Guatemala bringing these Boxes of Joy to kids, and this little girl grabbed me by the arm and took me to her house, our team of people. And she ran into her room and grabbed a bunch of stuff and came back out to our group. And she said, look at this. And she had a handful of letters that the donors of the Boxes of Joy had given to her over the years. And she kept every single one. And in fact, she keeps them under her pillow. And I was so moved that she personally felt she had to go grab these letters from the donors and bring them to me to show that she keeps them near and dear to her heart. That really moved me, because to all of us who give, it can be something that you forget about. You give and you move on. But for this little girl, that gift is going to be with her forever. And that really like almost moved me to tears. That one of the women was named Michelle, and I'm like, man, if Michelle only knew that 3 years ago when she gave one box of joy, that her letter is like close to this girl's heart and she literally hugs it. Yeah, it's powerful stuff. It's powerful stuff.
The little girl understands the connection to another human. It's really a beautiful story. Thanks so much, David Henrie, for telling us about all that you do. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, YouTube, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Veronica Dudo. Good night and God bless.